gang. Hey, nothing but love and respect. You might have some cool fans, but mine are the best. We've been through it all, went to war when duty called. Never left a man behind, we move as one is super strong. I don't want followers, that implies I'm the leader. I'm not the captain, I just gave them something they can believe in. I hold the lamp in the darkness, but they're the light that I needed to see the road that we walk in between the angels and demons. And my fans have my back. Hate us if your feelings don't like facts. And my fans will fight back. Beat you with the keyboard you've been using to write back. I guess we need each other like both sides of the battery. We the army, we the homies, we the gang, we the cavalry. We're brothers and sisters, we hold it down like we gravity. Can't nobody break the bond that made us all family.
Me and my fans, we don't care what anybody say. Middle fingers to whoever in the way, man. Me and my fans, we gon' be together to the grave. It's a gang till forever and a day, man. Me and my fans, we don't even trip in the hate. We the I don't give a fuck in our veins, man. Me and my fans,
We the hangover gang. Gang, 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 gang.
Oklahoma weather can dish out some of the worst punishment in the world. Hi everyone, I'm meteorologist Tuttle. But now you can fight back by installing Class 4 impact-resistant shingles from Ferguson Roof Systems. These shingles can withstand large hail, heavy rain, and hurricane-force winds, all while keeping your home safe and dry. And the best part? This upgrade is completely free for many homeowners. So call today to start reaping the benefits these Class 4 shingles bring, including a discount on home insurance. Only at FergusonRoofSystems.com.
Hey everybody, meteorologist Tuttle back with you again. It is, what day is it? It's Monday. I got thrown off the holiday and all. Let's see, so it is not Sunday, Aaron. Anyway, Sunday was yesterday where we had some storms that we talked about last night for about 6.5 hours here. That was a long event. Luckily, most of the tornadoes that did happen were small, and they weren't necessarily co-located with the mesocyclone of a supercell, which was good. A lot of them were leading edge vorticity spin-ups that would get pulled in and produce a little baby tornado along the way, then quickly dissipate within about a couple of minutes. Coweta, when I was tracking them last night, they had a really good debris signature, so that's probably the strongest one that I saw on radar. But thankfully, no huge ones, which was always good. So anytime you have a tornado and it's a small one, it's a win. Let's put it that way. All right, so once again, for those of you folks that have, about 1,000 of you have signed up for these automatic notifications whenever I do go live, because I know Facebook doesn't always play nice, either whether you're on my group page, private group page, or the main page. So I'm going to post this link again for you. So just click on that if you're having trouble from Facebook notifying you, and then I will send it directly to you myself. When you do this, though, there are 2 things you need to click on, and I'll just show it to you real quick. Let's move this over. So it'll pop up on your Facebook instant chat, and it'll say, hey, I see that you want to watch AT live. Okay, yep, you hit the word watch broadcast, but you see another button that says manage messages. You will need to click this one, and when you do, it'll say, okay, we're going to set it up for you to opt in for the next one. So not only going to watch today's, but you'll watch the one that comes in tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow, you're going to want to pay attention. So it says keep my updates, so click on that. And then one more check is good. Are you sure? You didn't click that by accident, right? And yep, so you're gonna hit the word notify me and you're done. So once you do this, it'll be a habit like brush your teeth, all right? But it is a workaround. It does work really well. It's guaranteed for you to get notified, unlike depending on algorithms of artificial intelligence to decide when you may not want to watch something. You can have direct intelligence that presses a button aka me, it says watch me. So anyways, that's how that works. Okay, so moving on from there, let's go on with the latest that we have to speak of. So yes, we just finished one storm and we've got another. So this is a look at tomorrow's outlook from the Storm Prediction Center. This area here in green and brown is 2 different shadings for tornadoes. Now they are very on the lower end scale, by the way. So it's a 2%, 5% probability ring. So that is a low end for a tornado event. Now keep in mind we're about a 15%, I think it was yesterday. So it kind of gives you a ballpark of how you can rate that. When we zoom in here in Oklahoma, we do have the enhanced risk of severe weather up here in northwest Oklahoma. Slight risk here in yellow, green is marginal, and this is for golf ball size hail, winds close to 80 miles an hour potentially at times. Tornado potential yesterday was medium, and then tomorrow it'll be low, or will it? we'll answer that question. But right now, the tornado potential they have for the Weather Service does have it in this area. Looking at some of the latest data tonight, I do favor this area and any supercell that develops in this region and kind of moves northeast out ahead of the main line. And the main line will also have potential for tornadoes here. So look, there's a couple of spots here that I'm favoring in western and west central Oklahoma for tornadoes. And then a squall line will move through the I-35 corridor. And there are some indications that some of those cores will be pretty intense. In other words, some pretty damaging winds and hail with those potentially as well. So we'll get to all that here as we go throughout this live discussion. Timing on this, by the way, 8 o'clock to 2 a.m. out here in the west, 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. here in central, and then from that point forward, at well after 4 o'clock in the morning. So this event is a little later start than last night. So it's run about 2 hours later. If we do look at the Tulsa area, slight risk up here in Osage, Pawnee, and then out toward Creek County. Otherwise, a marginal risk. In other words, the storm should dramatically weaken to just probably slightly at or below severe weather limits. Of course, we can still massage that a little bit and see how that changes. Now, we look at the hazard guidance in the past for analogs. We compare other storm systems to see, were there tornado reports in the past given this same scenario? And the answer is yes, about a 20 to 30% probability of seeing at least one tornado report. You're thinking, well, that doesn't sound like very much. And no, it's not. Well, there's too many counties on there. Turn that back off. So you can see kind of favored area here in the analogs for northwest Oklahoma. Oddly enough, down toward Dallas and then up north toward Goodland, Kansas. Now, Dallas, you'll be capped tomorrow, so I don't think you're going to have to deal with that kind of stuff. This is just, again, an analog situation going back in history to try to compare storm systems. And keep in mind, there are never any two systems exactly alike. Now, we look at Thursday. You're going, wait a minute, Thursday? We just finished Sunday. Now we got Tuesday. Yeah, we got Thursday. All right, so Thursday, about a 30 to maybe 40% probability of seeing a tornado here in Oklahoma with the next storm system comes in once again late Thursday night. I am so over this nighttime stuff, but it is what it is. So we'll deal with that a little bit later. Let's get through tomorrow. So the upper level storm system is coming in from the west, this little patch of red area in the spin of the atmosphere. That's what's kicking it all off. And there's a lot of instability, a lot of lift in the atmosphere out ahead of it. That's moving up to the north and east, and that's going to help to fire off all those showers and storms as they roll on through. So that'll be an interesting dynamic for us to deal with at nighttime. All right, here's a look at how it looks underneath when we start to pull in the moisture. In other words, the dew points will return. In other words, that's the low level moisture. It's the stickiness you feel in the air. That returns back from Texas. It was displaced today, but it'll be right back. It's just across Red River. And it kind of focuses west for a while. So it's kind of in a corridor of return that does something like this. Little squeeze play action. All right. And then with time, it'll shift to the east. So it's another axis coming in that shifts east with time with the storm. So that's kind of how that works. And the overlaying shear, when you get a vector, it looks like a triangle, kind of like this. This is a good quadrant of turning. In other words, the winds in this point turn like this. So they're turning like this. The bigger this wedge, the more turning there is. You do not want a big wedge. For tornadoes, the bigger the wedge, usually the better the probability of seeing a tornado, especially in the lower levels of the atmosphere. But now if it's more pointy like this, or almost straight, that's good. This means a typical severe thunderstorm, no big deal. All right, but unfortunately we got some wedges out there, so little pointy triangles, and that does mean we do have the potential for tornadoes in the shear department. And the CAPE is, of course, adequate anywhere from 1,500 to 2,000 joules per kilogram. Now, this is looking at the high-resolution HRRR model. We'll look at the forecast sounding. Unfortunately, the soundings for tomorrow aren't a whole lot different than they were for today, or excuse me, for yesterday. So, unfortunately, I think we'll have to deal with a couple of tornadoes as a result. Regardless, so here's a look at the shear. Looks very decent. Hodograph looks pretty decent. Probability type, hazard type is a tornado. Classic supercell structure. I'll go with that. The effective significant tornado parameter is up to around an EF4 style tornado with a significant supercell in the analog. So it's again saying we could have some strong storms. So yesterday that didn't happen. We did not have strong tornadoes yesterday, and the models indicated we would. Okay, so just to let you know, sometimes this is with a grain of salt, but we do have to look at the data and at least respect it. and we'll see what happens, because each model will have its strengths and weaknesses. This one's a little aggressive, but when you're trying to talk about tornadoes, you might want to err on the side of a little aggressiveness rather than being shy about it, because you don't want anybody to be asleep at the wheel. Okay, so that's a look at the HER model when it looks at instability. If I put this through time, by the way, this is at 10 o'clock in the evening, so that's when all that stuff happens. As we head to 11 o'clock, I'm going to go to 12 o'clock. There's 1 o'clock in the morning. That axis kind of shifts east. You notice everything's kind of slowly shifting east, but the shear also is lessening with time as well. So that's good. That means the shear, instead of doing this, is starting to do more of this. And that's fine. That lowers the tornado risk with time. When we do look at the basket of indices for the significant tornado parameter, they're off the charts out here in western Oklahoma, in the northeastern Texas Panhandle, into western Kansas. And this is in the, let's see, there's 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, 11, 12. Now look what happens. See the trend? 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock. It starts to really weaken, and then et cetera, et cetera. So the odds of getting a tornado are better before midnight, where these storms travel through, which will be through the western half of Oklahoma. Okay, so let's get on with how that looks on a radar view. We'll stick with the high resolution HER model. This will go through, starts about 9, 10 o'clock. Now, I'm going to put in a little caveat here. The model's been going back and forth as to the intensity of these storms here and the intensity of any storm that forms here. This model is a little different than the others. It indicates that there'll be a little less of a cap. I do have a tendency to believe that because of the time of the year that we're in, and we haven't really had a chance to build a cap into the region. In other words, a lid that would suppress thunderstorm development. It looks like we might have a weak one until that moisture piles in, and then that kind of eliminates it. So I believe we might be able to squeeze out a couple of supercells that form in this region by 8 o'clock or so, and then these will drift in this direction. And these, in my opinion, would be tornadic if so. So we'll watch for that, and then at the same time, we'll watch for this line of storms that'll build in this area and then follow suit. So there will probably be a couple of storms out ahead of the main line. That's how I envision things happening, but eventually the line itself will continue to progress eastward. Northwest Oklahoma has obviously a better opportunity for some tornadic activity on into Kansas. Let's see, this is 1 o'clock in the morning, so you can see how it's all still out there in western Oklahoma. And there's 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4 a.m., 5 a.m. So you kind of get in the picture. It's a late show here in Oklahoma City. I will show you another high-resolution model. It's a little faster than this one. Either one could be correct. It's going to be an overnight deal regardless. There's 6, 7. Of course, it's through Tulsa. It's your drive time in the morning. Now, you can have sometimes freak tornadoes at the crack of dawn. They are extremely rare, though. Very hard to get those. So normally everything's on a weakening trend by that point. So that's why you don't rarely ever hear that or see that in a forecast, just so you know. So it's usually through the afternoon, evening, up to the early part of the overnight. And then things kind of calm down that department. Okay, so that's the HER. I'm going to go over to the high resolution NAM. It has a little slightly different look to how things ought to evolve tomorrow. Each model will, based off their physics. So this is 9 o'clock. At least it kind of has an idea of some storms out here in southwest Oklahoma. And it has the rest of those stuff building up here in the Panhandle. As we go into 10 o'clock, they're still way out there. There's 11, and there's 12. There's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m. All right, so it's got it about an hour earlier here in the Oklahoma City metro area. The other thing you want to see is, you see all these little tracks right here? Now, these are what we call helicity tracks from updraft strength, so very strong updrafts within these. If it's a strong updraft, typically you're going to have hail with it, and if it's strong updraft, you're typically going to have some damaging wind. So that is why we might kind of have a peak of damaging wind with the maturation of a nice squall line. All right, so before they're kind of broken cells with the potential for producing tornadoes, and they kind of line out. Now, you can sometimes get the old QLCS tornadoes along the leading edge. Kind of like last night, we kind of had some hybrid stuff going on. But you can see at least there is a signal there for some stronger storms. They work through the I-35 corridor. Of course, there's Tulsa at 5 to 6 o'clock in the morning, and then on to 7 and 8 and 9 and 10. and they're just about out of the state by noon tomorrow. Okay, so with that said, what I want to show you also is potential for some wind gusts, and we'll look at each one of these just to kind of give you an idea that we will be expecting pockets of some damaging wind within these. Now, the strongest winds in general will be out across northwest Oklahoma with those storms. There's 8, 9 o'clock, but you can see anywhere in here, the atmosphere is going to have a strong low-level jet, and some of these winds will transfer down once they get some storm interaction with them. So the potential there is for 50 to 60 mile per hour winds. Here's the 60 there, 61, with storms that take advantage of the environment and tap into it. So that's why 60 mile per hour winds should be pretty common in a lot of these storms. Let's see, there's 3 a.m., 4 a.m. So we mentioned the potential for those storms to kind of kick in a notch. So here's 2 a.m. and watch the back end here of the squall line. And now look at 3. So look how all of a sudden we've got these little enhanced brown areas just pop up. Kind of like cell structure. So that's what I'm saying. We might have a little pocket of some damaging winds with the squall lines that moves through the Oklahoma City region late tomorrow night. Okay, if we look at the HERB model for the same idea for the winds, just another perspective here, it should be similar. Like I say, each one will have its slight differences, but kind of gives you the idea. So like here's a pocket of wind of 69 miles per hour out there in western Oklahoma underneath one of those cells. So here's 169. There's 73 I just saw. So remember, the forecast is for basically 60 to 80. So that's kind of how that happens. That's why you have a large range. Like here's a storm here in Oklahoma City. It's coming in around 70 miles per hour. Just to kind of give you an idea. And again, that's that 3 a.m. to 4 a.m. time frame. And then you can see how those winds kind of weaken once you get out there in eastern Oklahoma as the whole line itself weakens. Rainfall amount's pretty decent. 1 to 2 inches again. And it's just kind of like last night. You're going to get some brief flash flooding, especially get some of the supercell type action maybe out here in western Oklahoma, or you can pick up a quick 2 inches of rain. These should be pretty fast movers, though, so that should kind of help to limit that. But the good news is we're getting more beneficial rain, and I do want to see that. I'm going to show Dallas and Kansas here in a second, so hang on there. Meanwhile, the temperature was over across the state, and right now we'll kind of focus on Oklahoma City, but the rest of the state will follow suit. And here's the trend for you. So it's back in the 70s. For daytime highs for Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Overnight lows in the 60s still. So believe it or not, the Bermuda grass, because of the resurrection of rainfall, will resurrect itself. And so it'll grow a little bit. And then it'll shut it back down because we'll be back into the 40s from the weekend on into next week. Daytime highs in the 60s to around 70 degrees. All right, let's get back into, I'll show you guys in Dallas what's expected to happen. Also in Kansas, there'll be some rough storms in both areas. So let's switch that back for you. And then while I'm doing that, I'll think if there's anything else I wanted to show you. So if you're kind of joining me late, you're like, all right, dude, what's the 30-second summary? More storms, and again in the dark. So they start out western Oklahoma first after probably 7 o'clock, and then they kind of move east-northeast. So more of kind of a northeaster track with these, unless they turn really hard to the right. And if that happens, that means they're producing a big tornado. So otherwise, they'll move northeast during the evening hours, and we'll be tracking those for you here at AT's Weather. All right, so we are now at, what time are we? Yeah, so we went through the whole night, and storms didn't make it. Remember I told you to be a cap down there in Dallas that prevents storms to form? So just not good for you. All right, so let's go up to Kansas. And now Kansas will be seeing some rough storms in the late afternoon and evening as well. And some of these will be tornadic, and some of those will have some damaging winds and hail. So you got some nice helicity tracks with these. Here's that one around Dodge City. Nice supercell structure there on the model output. And the reason for that, very decent shear, nice hodograph, better than actually what we have in Oklahoma for the hodograph. Classic supercell structure, no weakness in the 2 to 4 kilometer range, which we did have here in Oklahoma, which means the winds are stronger. LCL is a little high based, but with the theta E axis feeding in the right place, right time, that shouldn't matter. They got a marginal tornado and a strength of around an EF2, maybe EF3. So that's kind of what's happening around in Kansas. That's the atmosphere there. So there'll likely be kind of a combination of some hail, wind, and probably a couple of tornadoes with any of those supercell type storms that form. But there's 11 o'clock, 12, there's 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., 4, 5, and 6 by the time now it moves into Kansas City. So even Kansas is seeing an overnight action. And then we'll do a timing here in Oklahoma to kind of fine tune this for you, kind of give you an idea. And I believe I want to use this. We'll see. I haven't loaded it up yet. So I'm like, I don't want to use this. All right, just kind of give you some towns on here, which is why I kind of posted this. Now, what was interesting is I will show you. Let me go back an hour, 9 o'clock. So it had a really nasty storm down here in Altus and one here in Elk City. But you notice it weakens it at 10 o'clock to nothing, just vaporizes it. Now, the only reason why that would happen is, remember, we're going to have a theta E axis of warm, moist, unstable air filtering into this region. So it's going to be a favorable axis for these storms to get carried away. Now, the models are saying once they cross this imaginary line here, that they're going to run out of that favorable axis. And that is a possibility. But what is also a possibility is that the axis shifts to the east along with the storms and they don't die. And instead they just stay gangbusters due to the shear in the atmosphere. And I think that's also on the table and probably a more likely scenario. But regardless, that was 10 o'clock. This is 11 o'clock. So big storms out here in Woodward, still in the Texas Panhandle. There's a midnight hour, so some big storms. And still, they still have that separated storm structure, right? So these are still supercell type storm structures. They haven't quite congealed into a squall line. So until that happens, threat for tornadoes would be there, along with damaging winds and large hail. So here is 2 o'clock in the morning. Again, there's a supercell structure out ahead of it. So the models are still indicating that the atmosphere is still prime for that to be of concern. And then that moves into Canadian County here at 3 o'clock. And then you will see the rest of the line is catching up to it and is starting to fill in to a solid line. And that's how we end up with a more of a squall line look to these storms. And then that kind of moves on through 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the morning across central Oklahoma and on into Tulsa from 6 a.m. onward. Okay, so that's how the breakdown ought to be. All right, so what time is it? 9:58. So we've talked for about 20 minutes. I think that's probably good enough. You should be updated for that. All right, let me check a couple of comments and then turn you guys loose. So let me bring this up. So a lot of you did download my weather app. I'm grateful for that, so thank you. It had been working fine all the way up until 5 o'clock yesterday. And then at 15 or 18 on the iOS devices, it just took a nosedive. And of course, it happened when I'm in the middle of getting ready to go live, and I'm going live, and I'm like, I can't deal with that right now. It was frustrating for me because I couldn't solve the problem, right? Or even figure out what was causing the problem, because the Android was working just fine. So I'm going, okay, what's the difference in the code between Android and Apple, and what could it be hanging up on or crashing on or whatever? So in the end, we got it going about I think it was 7:30 maybe. So it was down for about an hour and a half or so. And then I got it going again. So hopefully it won't do that again. That's the first and only time it's ever done that. Of course, it's on a storm day when you need it. So I get it. There was some vitriol out there, some angry comments. But that was just anxiety because you depend on it and it works, right? So I get it. Luckily for you, I was on live, so you didn't really need it at the time. You had me. But yeah, a lot of times though, I'm not live all the time. And so that app was a good fill-in as well. So there you go. Okay. I'm going to do, what was it, 10 o'clock? Let me load in. If you ask me any questions on the Facebook side, I did not see them because I didn't have it loaded. Let me see here. Okay. Let me load up my own broadcast. Give me 2 seconds. Then I'll peruse some comments. Yeah, I don't know about you on your phone, but my phone, when it tells me that I'm live and I go to click on it, it's a live from yesterday. Or the last time I went live. You know how lame that is? Why don't you give me the one I'm actually live on Facebook? It makes no sense to me. But whatever. It is what it is. Okay. Click on this. Where is it? Alright, scrolling through. Good. So some of you signed up to get the live notification from me. So it's good to see. So somebody asked about a tornado threat in Stillwater. I'm just kind of quickly scrolling through. Remember, it's pretty much all along I-35 and west. western Oklahoma. Anything east from there will be a freak occurrence. So hopefully that helps you out. And plus it's getting late, so the storm should start to weaken. A lot of them will probably drop their load here in the Oklahoma City Metro, for example. And once they drop their load, it's like a collective, what goes up must come down. And once they drop all that energy down, to get it back up again without the favorable environment that it started from isn't possible. So they usually just continue to weaken with time. Let's see. So the Metro... So Sharon's having trouble with the live feed. It could just be your Wi-Fi, Sharon. So always check your Wi-Fi. Or check your cell signal, whichever you're using. And also keep in mind, if you do have problems watching on Facebook, you can watch on YouTube, and you can also watch on Twitter for right now. So those are the other two platforms I have going on. I looked into Rumble, and I looked into Gab TV. So Gab TV is not ready yet. Rumble just turned theirs on a couple months ago, but I haven't looked further into that yet, so I'm busy, got things to do. But at least you got the other two options, and then we'll kind of go from there. All right, listen, that's it for me. I'll probably do a live. Will I do a live tomorrow? Yeah, maybe like around lunchtime. We'll see what the latest data says. Otherwise, if not, I'll just post a picture, of a model data or something, give you some info that way. Kind of depends on what I got going on. And but then I do plan on covering them live tomorrow evening as they develop. So I'll probably send out a notification around 8 o'clock is my guess. That I'll be going live, and then so there's a few ways we'll do this. YouTube will notify you. I don't know if Twitter still does, but I think they do. Of course, Facebook's supposed to. So I also will send you my notification directly on Facebook from me if you want that, and then if you opted in on the link, and then on my weather app itself, I can send you a personal notification on that way. So if you got my app, I will let you know. Like last night I did it, I said now broadcasting live or something like that. And that tells you, oh, I need to go turn on my TV. And by TV, a lot of you now are doing the right thing, which is you take your phone and you stream it, or your tablet and you stream it to your TV, or you just pull in the Facebook or YouTube app on your smart TV. So there's a lot of ways to do that. And that way you can watch it in 1080p and you don't have to squint. You don't have to get your glasses. Let's see, someone was asking about the BTI when you were streaming last night. I didn't want to butcher it. So I did post on my Facebook page the app overview, and the app overview on my website will tell you everything about the app you need to know, including a tutorial video on how to set it up and what to look at, how to play around with it. So you can go check that out. It's at aarontuttle.weather.com, and just click on the weather app tab on the menu, and that'll take you to that. But the short answer, though, on a BTI, it's a tornado index from 0 to 10. So in an environment like last night, a 7 or higher is a guaranteed tornado. And a 4 to 6 is one of those where, it's really close. I would be watching it and probably kind of getting toward going to the idea of going to the shelter. If it's a 0 through 3, it's just a notice, heads up. We do have this rotation within the storm, and it may strengthen to that point. But it's for your FYI, your situational awareness. And if that number, for example, let's say you were to get a second one, it goes from like a 3 to a 6. That's a ramp up. That means hit the deck. So that's how you can interpret those numbers. It's like any other scale from 0 to 10. What's your pain what's your pain today? In your arthritis. Well, it feels more like a 3. Well, 3's not bad. It's a good day. And you tell the doctor, well, it's 10. Well, you better give me some Percocet, and you better hit the shelter. So you think of it the same way on a tornado index. Low's good, high's bad. Let's see. That's a good question, though. Thanks, Adam. That was up there on YouTube. Okay, guys, I'm going to get out of here. You guys have a great night tonight. Sleep well, and we'll do this again tomorrow. Make sure you tell your friends and family about AT's weather so they can tune in to live coverage, and they can get all the information without all the high fear, anxiety, and scary terminology that doesn't help. All right, we'll see you later. Good night.